I have a deck tech that I am very proud of. It is Gisa, Glorious Resurrector. She is a 4-mana 4/4 legendary human wizard. If a creature an opponent controls would die, exile it instead. At the beginning of your upkeep, put all creature cards exiled with Gisa Glorious Resurrector onto the battlefield under your control. They gain decay. So, this card is way more fair, in my opinion, than something like Turgid that came out in Kaldheim. It is easier to play around for your opponents and probably will be less likely to get you immediately killed. Alright, so let's go into some of the first things that we want. We want card draw. So number 1, Costly Plunder. Sacrifice a creature, draw 2 cards. Very simple. You're going to be gaining a lot of your opponent's creatures, and it's no problem to have a sacrifice outlet in this deck whatsoever. Deadly Dispute, sacrifice an artifact or creature, draw 2 cards, create a treasure token. This one's great because it can also help you ramp into some of our more expensive spells coming on later on. Village Rites, sack a creature, draw 2 cards, just very simple. And then Disciple of Bolas. Sacrifice a creature, you gain X life and draw X cards, where X is that creature's power. This can be an amazing source of card draw. Just kind of depends what your opponents are playing, is the only downside. Harvester of Souls. It is a 6-mana 5/5 Death Touch. Whenever another non-token creature dies, you may draw a card. The thing with Gisa is that she does not create tokens. She just steals the creature after they come out of exile. So they are not tokens, but they'll die whenever they make an attack. So on one turn, you could draw 5, 6, 10 cards off of Harvester of Souls just for attacking your opponents, which you want to do anyways, because your creatures can't block. Foulmire Knight gives you a little bit of card draw, but it's mostly here for the Death Touch to help prevent any crackbacks that are happening back towards you, because people just don't like their stuff being stolen. Skullport Merchant, much more reliable source of card draw than Foulmire Knight. You can sack anything that is not really worth attacking, like maybe a couple 1/1s or something like that. You'd rather get that card draw. This is a perfect example of what to do with those little things. Another one is sacrifice a creature, draw 2 cards. Altar's Reaper, literally the exact same as a few of the other cards that we've had in this list already. Alright, Mass Destruction spells. This works great with our Gisa commander. As long as she does not die, a board wipe is optimal for us. So, Reaver Demon, an 8 converted mana cost, 6/6 flying. When it comes into play, if you played it from your hand, destroy all non-artifact and non-black creatures. They can't be regenerated. This is huge. So what it does is, since Gisa is black, obviously, it will just wipe the entire board, and if you can keep her on the board to your next turn, then you have a 6/6, literally every other non-black, non-artifact creature that was on that board, and you can just swing away and take out opponents just instantly. This is a big finisher. Well, most of these are actually really big finishers. The only thing you have to look out for is that your tokens do not become black colored. They remain their original color states, so this can hit your creatures that you stole. Forced March. What you want to do here is pay 6 mana, so it's a 3 converted mana cost or less. This just misses our commander, and that kills literally every other smaller thing or a token strategy that an opponent has is just gone. Obviously, if you keep her around, you get those creatures. So that's an amazing card for this deck. in. Garruk's Wake is our best sweeper in here by far. Destroy all non-creatures, or all creatures you don't control, and all planeswalkers you don't control. So this actually protects the creatures that we've stolen as well, not only our commander. In this case, you get to keep everything, destroy it, swing in. It's an amazing finisher. Arguably one of the best cards in this deck if you can get to that 9 converted mana cost. Nature's Ruin. Destroy all green creatures. You are going to have a green commander opponent at least 75% of the time. It is an extremely popular color because it has access to arguably the most ramp. Perish is the exact same card. Just destroy all green creatures. You get those back. Like I said with some of the other ones, this does not protect the creatures that you've stolen, so just be a little bit careful on this one. Plague Wind. This protects your creatures that you also stole, so this is an amazing sweeper. It's just a little bit underneath in Garruk's Wake because it doesn't hit planeswalkers. That's the only downside of Plague Wind. It's the exact same converted mana cost, but with the amount of creatures that we should have on board, planeswalkers should not be a problem. You can just swing in and take them out as well. Ritual Set. Destroy all creatures with converted mana cost 3 or less. This is huge because Gisa is less or greater than the 3 that is stated here. So all those little mana dorks that your green opponent has is now yours. Force of Despair. This is a very versatile card. If your opponent plays a very, very big creature spell, like a Crater Hoof Behemoth, you play this, you instantly just nuke that creature, and then you get it on your turn to hopefully swing back into them. If you can survive the crackback, that kind of is a bad example, but if your opponent just vomits in a massive amount of elves, you can just play this and just completely take away all that card advantage that they had just made. A very versatile card. You can either take one really massive or 2 really massive creatures, or you can take an entire board of tokens away from a person. It is a very versatile card. Alright, next category we have 1-for-1. I do like my 1-for-1 removal to be on bodies. It gives you a little bit of a chance of the crackback protection. Here we have Gilt Leaf Winnower. It is a 4/3 menace for 5 converted mana cost. When Gilt Leaf Winnower enters the battlefield, you may destroy target non-elf creature whose power and toughness aren't equal. That is very peculiar, but a lot of creatures don't actually have the same power and toughness. A lot of them do, but still also a lot of them don't. Shriekmaw is a 5 CMC 3/2. The important thing is that when Shriekmaw enters the battlefield, destroy target non-artifact, non-black creature. It's just a 1, just an instant removal for whatever you have the need to remove. You can also play it for the evoke cost. Makes it a little bit better, so it's not just a dead card sitting in your hand for the early games. At least you can get value out of it in the early game. Contract Killing and Grim Bounty are pretty much the same card. Destroy a target creature and create 2 treasure tokens or 1 treasure token. They're pretty much the same card. They're both kind of the same converted mana cost because one gives you 2 and the other one gives you 1. Just very versatile cards, and they can get you into the greater converted mana cost of your board wipes. Mage Hunter's Onslaught is your finisher. It is an amazing finisher. You just pick one opponent, pick their strongest, best defender, pop it, and then every other creature that blocks makes them lose life. So they either lose life due to their creature blocking and they possibly lose that creature, or they have to let you swing in, and either way that can end games quickly. Severed Strains, sack a creature, you gain life equal to the creature's toughness, destroy creature and opponent controls. A little bit more niche, but it is still a great 1-for-1. For more 1-for-1 removal, we have Spark Harvest. Destroy target creature. You more than likely will want to sack a creature, but again, that's not a huge deal. Destroy target non-merfolk creature. Most of the time you're not going to have to run into a ton of merfolks, but this could be a little bit worse depending on your guys' play groups. Maybe merfolk is a very well supported creature type, so it can be easily replaced. I mean, you can pick more or less any other 2 CMC removal spell and it will do the same job. This is our only non-basic land in this entire deck. Blighted Fin. Tap it, add 1 to your mana pool. For 4 and a black, sacrifice, and target opponent sacrifices a creature. This isn't great, but it can be very good against a control player who only has their main big bad on the field. You just make them sack that, and then you can possibly get it on your turn if you keep Gisa alive. It's not great, but it is just there if you got literally nothing else you can do for that time. Doomblade. Destroy target non-black creature. Just very simple removal. Drag to the Underworld. For 2 and a black, the spell costs X less, where X is your devotion to black. We're a single color commander, so we should have a ton of black devotion. We'll easily be able to pay 2 to destroy any target creature. Easy Prey. Destroy target creature with converted mana cost 2 or less. And it also has cycling, so in case you're playing against a bunch of angel and dragon commanders, you can, at least this card can just replace itself. It's very efficient in that way, and you can at least pick off a valuable mana dork or a utility creature with this card. This is our last little bit of 1-for-1 removal. We have Eliminate. Just destroy target creature or planeswalker with mana value 3 or less. This is pretty great for its CMC. We have Ghastly Demise. Destroy target non-black creature if its toughness is less than or equal to the number of cards in your graveyard. More than likely this will kill whatever we want it to, unless they have something like a Blightsteel Colossus or something bigger than that. Granted, Blightsteel Colossus is also indestructible, but you get my picture. If it has an absurd amount of toughness, then it might be a dead card in your hand, but most of the time this will get the job done. Terror. Destroy target creature, and it can't be a black or artifact. It's literally the exact same as a few of these other cards, just you can't target a black or non-artifact creature. Alright, we have a few mana rocks here in Rock the Dead. We have Charcoal Diamond. It's a 2 CMC artifact. It enters in tapped. You tap it, you add a black. It's very basic. Ebony Fly is a little bit more interesting. It's a 2 CMC. You tap it, you add a colorless mana. For 4, you roll a d6 until end of turn. You may have Ebony Fly become an XX insect artifact creature with flying, where X is the result. And whenever it attacks, target attacking creature gains flying until end of turn. So it just makes your another creature flying. It's a great mana sink if you have an opponent who doesn't have a creature with reach or flying creatures. It's a pretty versatile card for especially the price. Forsworn Paladin, not technically a rock, but it is a very, very efficient way of creating treasure tokens, which again will help you ramp into the more expensive cards that we have in this deck. Alright, protection. So the thing with Gisa is that she has to remain on the field for anyone's creatures to become your own. So the way I planned on doing this is regenerate. There are some removal options that do say cannot be regenerated, and that kind of nixes these plans in the back. If you want to, you can do the equipment that gives your commander Shroud, that makes it indestructible. Hexproof is another good option, but this is what we had in our budget, and I kind of like the regenerate thematic wise with this commander because I mean, it just kind of adds to the air of an unstoppable zombie army, which is the entire point of Gisa. So, Dark Privilege, enchant creature gets +1/+1, sacrifice a creature, regenerate enchanted creature. This is awesome. You can just sacrifice one of the guys that you stole, and it saves your commander. It's simple as that. Skeletal Grimace, +1/+1, and has regenerate this creature for a black. That's an amazing mana value offer, and it gives you a slight buff. Strands of Undeath, enchant creature. You can pay black, regenerate enchanted creature. And as a little added bonus, when it comes into play, you can specifically target a player who's being maybe a little bit unfriendly towards you for stealing all their stuff, and just make them discard 2 cards. Herbal Plutus. Sacrifice it for 3 and regenerate target creature. It's a little less reliable just because it's a single use, but it will definitely get the job done, especially since it is a 0 CMC card. Medicine Bag. Discard a card, regenerate target creature for paying 1 and tapping this artifact. Very, very helpful. If you have a bunch of extra lands that you can't quite find a use for, you can at least sack it for this and get a little bit of value with your commander. Now this is my favorite. It is Ring of Zathrid. For 2 mana, regenerate equipped creature. At the beginning of your upkeep, put a +1/+1 counter on equipped creature if it is black, and its equip cost is 1. So worst case scenario, you have 5 mana open, you just played your commander, people's creatures are dying because people are attacking. You play this, you equip it to your commander, and then you have 2 mana open for any time someone wants to remove it. That's kind of a dream scenario, but this is, in my opinion, a really interesting card that I don't see a whole lot of people play. Alright, since you are going to be stealing everyone's stuff, we want them to not attack us so you don't lose instantly just because the creatures that we are stealing are unable to block. So Blood Reckoning is an enchantment. Whenever a creature attacks you or a planeswalker you control, that creature's controller loses 1 life. Just a little bit of ping every now and then can make people just really not want to avoid you, especially if you can stack these with other effects like Hissing Miasma. It's literally the exact same card as Blood Reckoning, except it doesn't also protect Planeswalkers, which we don't have any in this deck. And then Revenge of Ravens. Whenever a creature attacks you or a Planeswalker you control, that creature's controller loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. And then Dogged Pursuit. At the beginning of your end step, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. This is admittedly a fairly weak card, but I did want it in here because if you are paying life to create treasure tokens, if you are paying life to draw cards, at least this can slowly bring you back up and kind of help you stabilize a little bit. Admittedly, this is probably the card to cut out first if you want to upgrade this deck. Death Payoffs. Alright, Shadows of the Past. Whenever a creature dies, scry 1. It is a 2 CMC converted mana cost, and that is an amazing enchantment. Your creatures are going to die all the time. Your opponents, not so much, is the problem because they technically get exiled. But when they come back to your side, you can scry through your entire deck very, very quickly with this card. Each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. You can do that with a 4 and a black. And you will more than likely have 4 or more creature cards in your graveyard. Butcher of Malakir. This is probably the best card in the deck. It is a 7 mana, 5/4 flying. Whenever Butcher of Malakir or another creature you control dies, each opponent sacrifices a creature. If you have, in this instance, let's say you have 3 creatures that you're attacking into that you've stolen. When they attack, they'll die at the end of the combat step. But when that happens, your opponent then has to sack a creature for each one of them. So it is a lose-lose situation. You are gaining 6 creatures on average if you're playing against a typical 4-person commander deck. This is an amazing card, and it can easily just win you the game on the spot. Falconwreath Noble is a 4 CMC 2/2 flying vampire. When another creature dies, target player loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. It is a very simple card. It is an amazing card. Honestly, you could probably put in a Blood Artist and it would be a little bit better, but this is an amazing way to just slowly ping your opponent because, like I said, everything is going to be dying. Mausoleum Harpy is a 5 CMC Harpy flying, and it has Ascend. If you have 10 or more permanents, you get the City's Blessing for the rest of the game. Whenever another creature you control dies, if you have the City's Blessing, put a +1/+1 counter on Mausoleum Harpy. You will get Ascend very, very quickly in this deck, especially if you start stealing other creatures. You only have to get it once, and then it starts gaining value off of it. So every time you steal a creature and you attack, it's gone. It's gone, but this is a great way to finish out some of those more grindy matchups. And your opponents will look at it and be like, do I really want to kill this thing? It's not even like, on the face value, it doesn't look that good, but it can very easily turn into a big threat. Some more bang for your buck. We got Singir, the Dark Baron, 6 CMC flying 4/4 Vampire Noble. Whenever another creature dies, put 2 +1/+1 counters on Singir, the Dark Baron. And whenever another player loses the game, you gain life equal to that player's life total as the turn began. This is great. It gets huge very, very quickly. And in the very niche circumstances, if you are attacking in constantly, you are probably going to be the one who makes a player lose the game, and therefore you can get the life. But you can also get life if another player takes another opponent out, and you just get that life. it is a very great way to kind of stabilize yourself after probably becoming the public enemy. Another card that goes great in this is Sir Conrad the Grim. Whenever another creature dies or a creature is put into a graveyard from anywhere other than the battlefield, or a creature leaves your graveyard, Sir Conrad the Grim deals 1 damage to each opponent. This will just slowly ping down every single opponent. Zulaport Cutthroat, 2 CMC for a 1/1. Whenever Zulaport Cutthroat or another creature you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Like I said, every time you steal a creature and you attack with it, that creature's gone, it dies, it officially dies, so then it triggers every single one of these ping effects that we have in this deck. And like I said, you could probably, if you want to fit into the budget, put in a Blood Artist for your Dogged Pursuit, because that is the card to take out. Okay, one of our last categories here is Reanimation. Draina the Last Blood Chief is a 5 CMC for 4 Vampire Cleric with flying. Whenever Draina the Last Blood Chief attacks, defending player chooses a non-legendary creature card in your graveyard. You return that card to the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it. No matter what they pick, you're going to get some value out of whatever they pick, and you can probably even do a political attack with this card specifically, and have someone else choose one of the creatures that comes in to kill a threat that's on the board. You can use it that way. You can use it as like I said, a political tool to get a certain piece back onto the board. It doesn't necessarily have to be the worst creature. And the best creature to probably target that is Nightmare Shepherd. Nightmare Shepherd is a 4 CMC for a 4/4 flying. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, you may exile it. If you do, create a token that's a copy of that creature, except it's a 1/1. This is amazing in this deck. This is quite possibly the other best card. So my 3 best cards in this deck are probably In Garrick's Wake, Nightmare Shepherd, and the Butcher of Malakir. The reason why this one is such a good card is because every creature you steal is the actual creature. It is not a token. So what you can do is you steal all your creatures, you slap this down, you attack with all those creatures, and then if any of them have an enter or leaving the battlefield effect, you can exile those, and then you get a 1/1 copy and get double the triggers. And then guess what? These don't have decay on them, so they can block. They can now attack without dying. This is an amazing card for this deck. It is absolutely, like I said, one of the top 3 cards in this entire deck for this specific commander. The card I skipped was Eternal Taskmaster. It enters the battlefield tap, which is not really that big of a deal. But whenever it attacks, you may pay 2 into black, and if you do, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. If one of your better cards dies, like Nightmare Shepherd, this is a way to get it back. If Draina dies, you can get it back. If one of your removal pieces dies, you can get it back. This is just and you don't really care if this thing lives or not. Or you can, again, do a political move and say, oh, that guy has an Dragon. Are you sure you want that to keep around, or I can kill it for absolutely free? All it will take is just 2 damage. And just let it live, and then bam. There's another political tool that you can use for this deck. One of our last categories is called Don't Touch Me. Obviously, it revolves all around death touch creatures. Bone Picker. This spell costs 3 less to cast if a creature died this turn. You can get a 3/2 flying death touch for 1 mana if you attack with 1 creature that you stole. Graveblade Marauder is a 3 CMC 1/4 death touch creature. Whenever Graveblade Marauder deals combat damage to a player, that player loses life equal to the number of creature cards in your graveyard. Not the best. It's mostly here just to be a defender. In that regards, I think it's one of the better death touches in this deck, just because, like I said, you're more than likely going to be the enemy as soon as people read that text box on your commander. Nighthawk Scavenger. I am still amazed that this is under $1. 3 CMC, flying, death touch, lifelink. Nighthawk Scavenger's power is equal to 1 plus the number of cards among cards in your opponent's graveyards. So that's an amazing value, and it's shared between all graveyards. So if someone is just dumping a bunch of lands into their graveyard, that counts. If someone is playing enchantments, that counts. This is so much better in a commander format than it is in a single player format. It is absolutely insane, and it can prevent anyone from wanting to attack you in the first place, because you'll either gain a ton of life, kill their creature, or do both. And eventually this can be a threat on its own and just end games by itself. Ogre Slumlord is a 5 CMC Ogre Rogue for that's a 3/3. Whenever a non-token creature dies, you may create a 1/1 black rat creature token. Rats you control have death touch. This is an amazing card. Again, it goes off the same principle as Nightmare Shepherd. The creatures that you steal are not technically tokens, they are the actual creature. So whenever those die, you just replace it with a black rat that's a 1/1 and has death touch. Now no one would want to attack you. This is easily probably the top 10 in the cards in this deck. It is an amazing defense tool. If you have an Ogre Slumlord, no one's going to want to touch you unless they have flying. Absolutely no one's going to want to do it, just because it's not worth them losing all their best creatures because you blocked it with a 1/1 token. And here we have a few utility creatures. Magus of the Abyss is a 4 CMC human wizard that is 4/3. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, destroy target non-artifact creature that player controls of their choice. It can't be regenerated. Yes, this does hit us, but again, during our upkeep, we should be getting all the creatures that have died since the last time it was our turn, so we can easily sack one of these off. And with this card alone, we are getting 3 creatures as long as we have our commander on the play. Timrat, Chosen of Death. Timrat's toughness is equal to your Devotion of Black. Again, we should have Devotion of Black off the charts with this. It is mainly here to exile up to 2 cards from graveyards. You gain 1 life for each creature card exiled this way. This can increase our life in a very incremental way, but more importantly, it can just shut down other reanimation decks. It can be like, oh, I see that Croxa over there. Nope. Oh, I see that you are playing a Moldrova deck. I'm going to take out your best creatures, your best lands that you are sacking, literally everything. I feel like Graveyard Hate is a very underrated form of counterplay in Commander. I feel like if you can get at least 1 or 2 Graveyard Hate cards in your deck, you are doing better than a majority of people who are not thinking in that sort of playset. And here we go to the value. Our deck is as low as $30. I believe on TCG Player it was anywhere from $30 to $40, and on Card Kingdom I believe it was averaging around $33 to $35. The average Gisa deck as of right now has the value of $560. We are doing on less than 5% of that budget right there. This is an incredibly powerful deck for how little it costs to actually set up. I will have the video, the deck list in the video description down below. I encourage you guys to look at it. If you have any comments or any deck techs of your own or any commanders that you specifically would want built, go ahead and place it in the comments below. I am more than willing to open to ideas. I do have a few other deck techs that I've